If you had asked me this question 6 years ago, I would never have thought it would somehow lead us from Ladakh to go to South India, visit farmers, come back to Delhi, open a coffee company with just my husband and me, that in 6 years has 200 employees. I never thought we would go that far.
Today, we're meeting Matt and Namrata, the founders of Blue Tokai Coffee Roasters. What started out as a quest for good coffee has turned into a single estate specialty roast coffee connoisseur's paradise, spread over 5 cities, 13 cafes, and a bouquet of fragrant coffees that one can try, subscribe, and fall in love with. Theirs is a story of starting something amazing and new and refreshing, of being able to truly love what they do for a living, of finding ways to give back meaningfully. Coffee isn't just a beverage, it's a lifestyle. The face of coffee in India has seen a sea change in the last few years, and it's owed now in a small way to Blue Tokai.
Chennai, that's where I met Namrata. We got engaged, then we wanted to live in a different part of India. We thought Delhi would be a good place to move to. We were a bit tired of what we were doing and wanted to sort of explore something on our own. So we thought of a few different ideas, and one of those was coffee. We didn't come from any F&B experience. We didn't come from any experience of running our own businesses. It was purely, this is something that we want. We're looking for good quality coffee. We didn't put together a business plan. We didn't have some projections of where we wanted to be in 5 years. We felt this was an opportunity. We definitely saw the market in Delhi at that time. There was only CCD or some of the other chains which were producing pretty average quality coffee or really expensive imported coffee. Luckily, like Namrata and I had a very complementary backgrounds. So I was involved in finance and economics, and she was involved in design and communications. So together, that's 3/4 of a business right there. So that part worked out. Maybe we didn't have the experience, but we had the drive and the idea.
So Matt is very hands-on, and I remember when I first met him, he really liked to brew beer at home. And he would make you can get beer kits, but he would make everything by himself. And one time we'd bought a fridge, and I was sitting in another room and I heard this really loud drilling noise, and I ran out to see what was going on. And Matt was just there, drilling a hole into the fridge, because that's where your keg goes and that's where the tap goes on the fridge, because that's just what you do when you get a new fridge. But that's just who he is as a person. And when we started Blue Tokai, he would fix the roaster when the roaster broke down at 10:30 every night, which somehow it always did, when we had like 12 hours of roasting and grinding ahead of us. He's such a team player. I remember he would constantly injure himself because, he made sure that he would carry the 60 kg bories of coffee on his back and bring him up the stairs and do all of these things himself. But I do think that when people see Matt doing all of these things, they just know that this is what we are. There's never going to be a hierarchy. Matt is never going to be the type of person who sits in an office and says, okay, now you do this, or you do this, or you do this. You know, he will be there. And if you say something can't be done, and you better make sure it can't be done, because Matt will be standing right next to you, trying to figure out a plan for why and experimenting. We make fun of Matt's favorite question being why. Like anything you say, it's why.
Matt's brain is this, it's like, you know how you see X-Men and like Charles Xavier walks into like that vortex kind of thing, and like it's like there's so much going on. That's Matt's brain. Like that's how I imagine his brain.
He's not pessimistic at all, but he is cynical about life. It's not like if things are going great, Matt will never say things are going fantastic. Maybe I would say that, but he'll be like, oh, you know, things are okay. And that's about as excited as he's about to get. So if Matt says something is okay, that means it's fantastic. You should be very happy.
So there was definitely a learning process involved. We took some classes in Bangalore. There's a coffee institute there. We started doing research and found that although India grows very high quality beans, they were all being exported, so they weren't available here domestically. They were being exported to Australia, US, UK, Europe, Japan, Korea, places where they have a very strong coffee culture and they appreciate very high quality beans. We just started cold calling farms and trying to get appointments with them to go down and meet them.
And nobody got back in touch with me, so I thought it was like a really bad sign. And then 2 weeks before we had said we were going to go to Bangalore and go to Karnataka to meet with offices and farms, they got back in touch with me, all of them at once.
So we were able to line up a few visits. So the first step was meeting the farmers and convincing them to sell us their high quality beans.
So I remember walking into this office of one of the first farmers that we were going to meet with, and he was this incredibly commanding presence. And he's like, look, I'll sell you beans, but this is not gonna work. Like nobody in India wants what you're selling. People in India want instant coffee or they want South Indian filter coffee, and we know we've been in this business for a really long time. And I just remember my heart dropping a little bit. But I thought, okay, so this is the first person that we have to convince that this is gonna work, is gonna be the farmers that we work with. And then I think maybe like there was like a minute's worth of silence. And then I heard from the corner of the room his son saying, but Dad, I don't understand why you think this won't work. And then like the tension moved to his son, and there was this like beautiful interaction between this older generation plantation owner and like his son taking place. And that's when I realized like it wasn't just Matt and me who were taking this journey to change sort of the coffee landscape in India, but it was actually gonna start from the farms.
A lot of people talk about being farm to cup. We sort of want to take that one step further and actually be farm to cup in the truest of the sense of that word.
We wanted everything to be transparent from the beginning, share the information of the farms with our customers, make sure we gave our farms samples of the coffees that we were roasting so that they could also see what we were doing with their coffees, share with them the packaging that has the name of the farm, altitude, roast level, all of that information. And I think in that, there was some trust building that took place.
Transparency sort of echoes through the brand. You see it in our cafes. We have those circular windows in which you see what's going on. You can see through our kitchens, our roasteries. Nothing's hidden in our brand. You can ask us anything. Both the founders are super accessible, which in itself says a lot about how transparent they are in the way they conduct themselves.
We came up with the name because we wanted something really indigenous to India. And of course, the peacock is a national animal of India, and we looked up different words for peacock, and Tokai is like a very ancient Malabari word for peacock. And that's, a region that's known for its coffee plantations. And then, there was no other color that we could think better than blue. And that's how that name came to be. And actually, Tokai means the plume of a peacock, not actually a peacock. And so with our packaging, we make sure that with each coffee that we have, like the plume of the peacock in each of those packages is of a different color.
When they first started it on the 1st of January 2013, and my daughter says, don't get too excited, it'll take time for orders to come in. And within an hour of them going live, the first order came in, and I remember how excited we were. Then, of course, because it was a tiny roaster, so they used to do all-nighters, and I used to get out of my room and say, God, have the children gone to bed or not? And there they were still roasting, and I used to hear soft music and these two laughing upstairs, and it was just wonderful memories.
I was pregnant 6 months after we started. So they were definitely 16-hour days. I remember we would be up till like 5, 6 in the morning. They were absolutely crazy days. And so when we got pregnant, we were just like, oh my God, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna have a baby and a business?
Yeah, I think we cried.
Yeah, I think we were so scared we cried.
Really scared,
Instead of being like so happy and elated, we were just like, oh my God.
What are we gonna do? How are we gonna do this? How's this gonna work out?
Yeah, it was so much fear, so much fear.
I can't imagine being pregnant and carrying around a child and still working the level that she worked. But actually, Namrata's a far, far better manager than I am.
Namrata, I think she brings a tremendous attention to detail.
She's really sort of the heart and soul of Blue Tokai, whereas I'm maybe more a little bit of like the calculating side now. She's sort of with the ethos and everything really came from her and rests with her. So our focus on design, our commitment to transparency and all of those core aspects of what we are, that really is driven by her on a day-to-day basis.
They say that Aryanur is their second child. Blue Tokai is their first child. And I think they make a great team. They work very well together. We've seen them working in tandem.
And we haven't heard any loud fights, so they must be working together well, I'm sure.
We're just partners in sort of the most literal sense of the word. There's not a single aspect of our life where that's separate or disentangled. And as much as Blue Tokai has become a part of that for better or worse, sometimes it's great and sometimes you wish that work could be separate. But I think it's really incredible to see your partner to have the opportunity to see your partner in work.
Everything I know is because of them. It's because I had the privilege of shadowing them. They've done everything. Like, they're the reason this brand's the way it is, the aesthetic, like the focus on the details that don't seem to matter but matter so much in the long run.
We also have a lot of quality control procedures that we put in place that other companies are not doing. So every single batch of coffee, we have goals for the roast profile itself. And so if certain parameters happen a few seconds outside the time frame it's supposed to, or a few degrees outside of that, automatically the software flags it as a warning. We pull that batch out and we don't serve that to customers. Ultimately, what matters the most is taste. So we have a team of people who are trained in cupping. And so they cup every single batch of coffee that we produce so that we make sure that the coffee is tasting the way that we want it to taste every time.
They have never ever compromised on quality. Because I remember there used to be outages.
And even if the power went for just 5 or 10 seconds, the machine stopped and then it restarted, he would throw it away.
Yeah,
that's a lot of
coffee. I'm not going to compromise on quality ever.
As long as you get your work done and like try to match his level of integrity, which is by far the highest I've ever seen in another individual, you're fine.
He doesn't get triggered.
What do you mean? If you just ride me about things.
I can say like, hey Matt, how about you not work for like half a day? And he gets really triggered. He's like, what do you mean not work? How is this possible? The world will come to an end. This.
I have to balance you out because everything that happens in Namrata is like, get medicine, go to the doctor, consult specialists, do everything.
Some people between Blue Tokai and Noor and Matt, I actually have 3 kids sometimes, you know? It's like the caretaker for all.
She definitely bears the heavier burden and she does a fantastic job. I mean, you can see it also with the bond between Noor and Namrata, that they're mutually obsessed with each other. So when she starts working with me as my apprentice, then we'll turn the tables. She'll be like my mini-me, and then, you know, I'll pawn off some of the tasks to her, and then we can come home and have a cup of coffee and talk about how our day at the office went together.
And Noor's always been at these construction sites or behind a computer, or even if she like pick up a phone, she wants to say, hey, I want to watch something, she'll say, I've got to work. And then she'll start, pressing buttons. It's always about work. And like that's her go-to phrase, which I feel is like, I feel a little bit heartbroken that that's what she's heard us say so often.
Well, it's good. Get her developing a strong work ethic right from the beginning.
See?
She's 100% going to grow up and be a tea drinker. Like,
It's so funny, I don't think very often about how far we've come. And I think for this documentary, we had to go through photos and look at all of this stuff. And I'm just looking at these photos of when I was cutting out labels and cutting them with a pair of scissors and gluing them onto pouches and making sure the names were spelled correctly and all of that. And I'm like, oh my God, we've come so far. It was just 2 of us. I can't believe it was just 2 of us when we started.
yes, we've come some distance, but we still have a long way to go. I think potentially we would look to open up outside of India. They see India as kind of a low-cost, low-quality producer, whereas the coffee that's grown here could stand on any cafe menu across the world.
How far would you go?
Very far.